All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker. Bryan Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie
Turn
Noodles,
this stupid
McLennan.
music off. It's a professional show.
A lot of people were wondering what we were going to play out of the gate. They were wondering, and they thought we would play Hello Darkness. We won't play that.
Dude, the series isn't over yet.
Series isn't over yet.
Series isn't over yet, but I'm installing a new rule for all media types, okay?
Yes,
Okay.
what do you got?
All media types, there is a new rule. Whenever you want to go up and ass kiss to Nathan McKinnon and all the other stars, and you put the mic out and you say, how poorly do these guys get treated in Toronto? How, everybody's so hard on them. How awesome are they? Let them comment, but the rule is you got to come back and get a comment after last night's game.
That's
what
right.
you got to do.
That's
fair.
right. You got to
So
go
if
on the
you're
record
to go
after
up to
watching
every
last night.
superstar that comes to town and say, how poorly do these guys get mistreated, making $13 million, and how awesome are they? So you could do that. You could do it, but the caveat is you got to get a comment after that game last night, and that's the only rule moving forward.
I think that's very appropriate.
Yeah.
I think, if you're going to talk in July and August and September about how crazy Toronto is and how unfair everyone is.
Both things, Hayes. How crazy the media is and how awesome the player is.
Right.
I want to know what you think of that last night.
Absolutely.
Well,
I think after last night there needs to be a part two. There needs
Chime
to be a
in.
follow-up.
Well, they
second
spoke.
chapter.
They spoke. I guess my question to both of you is: Did you like what you heard?
From the players after the
Yeah,
game?
I mean,
it doesn't even matter what the players say after the game. I mean, I really appreciate Chris Tanev owning it. He's new to this. He'll learn that you just you say flush it. That's how we roll in Toronto. But he tried to own it. They all tried to own it. They all tried to say we all have to be better. But last night. Nothing shocks me. Yeah, nothing shocks me. But I was surprised.
Better or worse live than on TV?
You wouldn't
Yeah,
believe
what was it like,
What it
Hayes?
was
What
like.
was it like?
It was an out-of-body experience last night. Like I've seen a lot of crazy things in my life. It really was, man.
An out-of-body.
It was an
You have to
out-of-body
explain what that even means, because
Yeah,
it's
I
a term
mean,
that gets thrown out there. Does it just mean like you can't believe where you're sitting and what you're watching? Is
Yes.
that basically what it means?
This is how bad it got last night. And so I'm up in the press box, and I think after the Mikkola goal, I sit back in my chair and I have my arms folded, and then my mind is starting to race at this point because I know what's happening. Right now, I know where this is going. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to be.
You're
coming
literally
up,
prepping for your hit.
I'm coming up
that
after
was
the
curtains.
game.
That goal was curtains.
That was
right
it. When
there.
Mikkola, I would argue when Boqvist made it 3-0 and Mitch Marner basically said,
Yeah,
I'm not
that
playing
was-
anymore.
Yeah.
That might have been it. But 4-0 was definitely curtains at that point. And I leaned back, and I'm watching the big screen, I'm watching the replay, and Jonas, who's about 10 chairs down, snaps a picture of me.
Oh no!
And I will send it. I will send it to Joe. We can post it. That's when I realized this is an out-of-body experience because I'm witnessing something, but I'm not seeing this whole thing through. Like I'm trying to figure out exactly how it got to this point where a Maple Leaf team with a game that is that significant last night plays the way they played from start to finish. Because Barub was talking about the first period, and that obviously set the tone, and it was terrible, and they were lucky they were only down 1-0. I think the third period was one of the more embarrassing periods I've ever seen from a professional sports team because I have so much time and so much gratitude that I would direct towards Paul Maurice and the Panthers because you could tell Paul Maurice was yelling at him, don't stop. They can quit. We're not. Like, this series isn't over. We're only up 3-2.
Right.
They were forechecking, hitting. AJ Greer was looking for a fight at the end of the game. Couldn't find one. No one on the Leafs was. They're all like, I'm not dropping the gloves. No chance, man. I got a flight to Florida. We got game.
And I know it's not their personality. Can you imagine how yucky that would have gotten if that was the Florida Panthers getting smoked like that?
Oh man.
Knowing there was a game on Friday night, and I get it. It doesn't mean anything, but it just talks about a mentality where it's like, we're killing you guys 5-0 or 6-0, whatever the hell the score was, and we still want to take a chunk out of you after the game.
Right.
And I think we got to set a goal. We have to talk ourselves into by 6:55. We have to somehow find some confidence heading in tomorrow.
Well,
we are going to go through the details of what happened and who stunk and all of it. But by 6:55, we have to regroup, and by 4:05 p.m. tomorrow, we're going to be confident heading into that game. Because it's the crazy thing, and it would almost be the leafiest thing, if they dummied them in Florida and dragged them back to Ontario and did it to us again. It could happen.
I thought about this today, guys, because I wasn't sure. We all know where the show is going to go. I mean, it stunk. They were awful, pillar to post yesterday, but I wasn't sure. Like, that's today. Tomorrow, I thought, I thought today it's like we're looking back. Tomorrow we look forward. Like, that's what maybe it's by 6:55, but I don't know if there's enough right now we gotta dig into last night. Tomorrow we dig into tomorrow. I feel like that. Like, I don't know how you guys feel, but I just, like, it's not over. The series isn't over. But, man, that was awful last night.
That was as bad as it can get in a big game. And, listen, I will say I slept on it, and I thought of what you were saying yesterday, Noodles, where you're like, listen, it's Game 5. It's not Game 7. You can't treat Game 5 like a Game 7. And it is just one game, and it would be the leafiest thing ever for them to go down to Florida and drag everyone back and get you back going on Sunday. I think it's very difficult for anyone to believe in that, anyone to visualize that, anyone to put any money on that. But it's sports. Crazier things have happened. The messaging is going to be, whether you lose 6-1 or 1-0 in overtime, you just got to put it past you and move on. And that is valid. That is true.
Wow.
and all of that is a reality. And I after last night, because after the game, I'm like, these guys they might get pumped tomorrow. And they might. Let's be clear. That's on the table, too.
It's
on the table.
That could be a heavy portion.
Destroyed tomorrow. Everything's on the table tomorrow.
Right.
But, you sleep on it, you get up, and you're like, okay, reset, see what happens Game 6. Totally reasonable. But I think what was so disturbing last night, what was such a gut punch for me anyway, and I think for Leaf fans around the world, is that the beauty of being, a sports fan is that there's so many different ways to connect, and there's so many different things you talk about. Whether it's, who's the GM, who's the coach, what are they going to do at the draft, what kind of prospects do they have, what's their cap, what do they do with the free agency, should they make this trade, who plays on the power play, who kills, do they have a good enough tandem goaltender? We could go on and on and on, and we do, and we love to do it, and that's what all fans love to do.
Right.
What last night symbolized and what last night proved is all of that is completely irrelevant if your two best players are indisputably the worst players on the ice. And that's what they were last night. Indisputably. Nobody on earth can watch that and say 16-34 or anything but the worst two players on the ice. And that's what it was soul-sucking last night. That's what was crushing, was we spent 2 days talking about those two guys, legacy games, who they are, what they represent. And in reality, they're as synonymous with this team as any two-pack of player I can think of. I grew up, it was Sittler and McDonald and Clark and Gilmore and, all these different two-packs that we can think of. And it's not exclusive to the Leafs. It's the same thing in Edmonton. It's as much the Edmonton Oilers as it's the Edmonton McDavids or Edmonton Drysaddles or Colorado McCarrs or Colorado McKinnons or Pittsburgh Crosbys or Pittsburgh Malkins. This is the way it goes. Two best players, they're synonymous with the team. They lead the charge. They're the best players. They set the tone, the voice, the culture, the attitude, the pace, everything. And the two of them, I can't imagine they could play worse than the way they played.
That's how I described them, as the two worst Maple Leaf players.
I couldn't believe that. Like that, I guess I should have been prepared for that. But it wasn't, hey, Joseph Wall was awful or a couple of bad bounces. Or those two, in the first period, it was like shocking to watch them play.
Caved in every shift in their own
They were timid,
zone. And guys, I slept on it too, and you just think of different things. And the one thing I keep thinking about is it is really difficult to win. And you've got to give props to the Florida Panthers because it's like they've cracked the code, as somebody brought to my attention the other day, and they're the Florida Panthers that have been to 2 straight finals. But it just cannot be that this Maple Leaf team, for 9 straight years, faces an opponent with almost equal point totals during the regular season, and they're on the losing end of these type of situations every time. It just can't be. Like, it's just, that team can't be like that much better where it's like, oh, we just ran into, sometimes it's got to be the other way around, but it never is. It just doesn't seem like that. They do have an opportunity to win the game tomorrow and bring it back, but to be picked off the mat and get yourself together, I think it looks awfully difficult. And you mentioned 16 and 34. If they skate out of that ice tomorrow on the same line, I'll go right from the viewing room and I'll sit on the desk and I'll watch I'll sit there and wait to do the hit.
That's on Barub, man. He should have got them away from each other.
If you didn't smell them getting destroyed last night together and kind of like being buried in their own misery, there's no way in hell that those two should have skated out there in the same line.
Well,
no way.
Hayes, you even tweeted it out. Like, they started the third period with
the camp
line. I mean,
that's a white flag.
That is saying, you know what, we're going to save these guys and not play them anymore or split them up. And by the end, it was just a blender of players. And it was an awful night, period. At the end of the day, I know one thing about tomorrow's game is the Florida Panthers are not going to beat themselves. That's the one thing. They are a really, tight team. Now you can see they're on top of pucks. They're heavy, all of that. Now, that doesn't mean that the Leafs can't beat them. But the Florida Panthers are not going to hand them the opportunity. Like, they're not going to hand them freebies. Yes, Seth Jones the other day falls down and Nyes goes in alone. There's going to be mistakes. But Florida's not beating themselves. That's you can see they've found something there. They've got that looks like a championship caliber team right now. But the Leafs have to find a way to go after that and dictate the pace. Last night, from the drop of the puck, that was the most timid Leaf team I've seen all playoff long, and really for the last 2 months.
Yeah.
They looked afraid to make a mistake, and then they did make mistakes. That was the difference. Is Florida looked like they had 7 guys on the ice. Every time a defenseman turned around, it felt like 5 guys were on them, and they were overwhelmed, and they just didn't get out of it. But I don't know if they were afraid to lose, if they were overwhelmed by the moment. But they just were no good. And it's funny, I don't know who was madder in their post-game media, Connor McDavid or William Nylander. Nylander was like, yeah, we lost, that's it. Like, he's as level as they come.
Yeah, they're never going to show anger. I mean, that's a frustration that isn't worthy of wasting time on anymore, because that was 5 years ago. We wasted time on that 6-7 years ago. Marner's going to pretend like he doesn't hear anything or doesn't care, or white noise, and Auston went as far as he could.
I liked
I'm going to look in the mirror myself and okay, sure. Or maybe you step out and be at the forefront of it and not say we all have to. I would have preferred that, but whatever. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
You can make those comments, guys, but there's got to be a follow-up. Like, I would follow up, and I know it's a difficult job, and everyone's trying to get a question in. But when you come out with a comment, we all got to look in the mirror, including myself, and bring our best game. There's a follow-up after the next one. Did you do that?
Why didn't that happen tonight? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that's
how, in a desperate situation, did you guys not look in the mirror after the last game and say, we've just got to bring our best stuff? I even had a buddy of mine, guys, from North Carolina. He's my best friend. He's a lawyer. He doesn't claim to be an expert in hockey. He called me up pissed off about the Maple Leafs, and he's like, man, your fan base. He goes, I actually feel bad for them. And then he went through all the years, and he's like, they deserved a performance tonight. Like, this is a lawyer in North Carolina. He's like, that fan base deserves so much better than what they got. And he goes, I think the jersey stuff is crazy, throwing it on the ice, but my God, did they deserve something better. Like, everybody I know that went to the game, they're really disappointed, man. They're just
it was wild again, man. We could have set up the camera with 5 minutes to go. I could have been doing a live hit on SportsCenter when Nick Robertson scored, because there was no one around. We could have just set up, and I could have been on talking about the game. Said, "Oh, Robertson
easily,
because there was nobody there, and deservedly so. Why would anyone stick around? They got booed off the ice in the second. They got booed all throughout the third. The jersey being thrown on the ice again is a wild move, but
it's an idiotic move.
It is. But also, I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, it's there would have been people that paid thousands of dollars for those tickets last night and made plans and shifted things around and told people they can't get together or, whatever it is. I got to be in the building for Game 5. What a night, and that's the performance you get.
Well,
it
Brian,
is
you said it yesterday.
Disappointing.
You said it at the end of the show yesterday. You said people will remember this game.
Yes, that one will never be forgotten. I was accurate in that comment.
Now, again, there is an opportunity, but that's why I said we talk about last night and then you look forward tomorrow.
Well,
tomorrow.
Let me ask you this though, as we kind of segue in and out.
Yeah.
Let's say they win tomorrow night. Do you believe they win because Matthews and Marner dragged them to that win?
No. I think it's like a Pacioretty 2-goal game, a McCabe slap shot, and a solid goaltending performance. That's right. And they got to, guys, if we want to get into some of the technical stuff, there has to be some type of adjustment because if they want to keep, there's no sense of, screw it. Forget about dumping the puck in anymore. That is honestly a lost cause. Your strength is not going, you're not going to go get it from them. They've already determined that. A dump puck is a giveaway. So figure something else out. I don't know what the hell it is. I'm not a coach. I played the game my whole life. Either figure something out because dumping it with one guy against 4 is the dumbest thing, and I can show you video clips of it. A dump, and then one guy goes in against 4 Panther guys, and it's insanity. It's complete insanity. So have an adjustment. Figure something out.
Well, you got to get speed through the neutral zone.
Thank you very much.
But there's no. You know why? There's just layers of support. The prime example was 2 games ago, the Sam Bennett goal. That's Aaron Ekblad that steps right through the middle and closes that lane off and pops it, and now it's a foot race, and Bennett goes in 2-on-1 and puts the lights out. Last night,
Jamie, all
Mitch
I know
Marner,
is the one thing they can't do is say, "Wow, we just can't get put through these guys."
I understand, and I'm supporting you here. What I'm saying is, last night it got to Hope Place. Mitch Marner with a spinorama and a backhand whatever saucer through the middle of 80 feet. And Florida's just sitting there waiting for it, going, okay, we'll just turn this over and go the other way. That kind of encapsulates, we're going to get away from our structure and we're going to try and do things on our own. That's how frustrated they were. It's like, we're just going to try things that work in November. And that's not the case. So you got to get back to the drawing board. I think if the Leafs have success, it's speed and it's aggressiveness. And that hasn't been the case. It's been Florida that looks faster and more aggressive right now. That wasn't the case the first 2 games.
Yeah. Well, that's the amazing thing. You go back to the first intermission of Game 3 where everyone watching it through a Maple Leaf lens is thinking, man, what world am I living in right now? They're up 2-0 in the series. They're up 3-1 in this game. Bob looks vulnerable. Florida looks slow. The Leafs are flying. It's going to happen. They're actually going to do it. And then that game gets away from them. And it was a good game, close game. It goes to overtime. Marchand goes off Riley and in. Okay. And then Florida clearly got to the room and said, enough is enough. What are we doing? We've got one. We got to figure it out. And the Leafs, it would seemingly appear as if they got to the room and said, uh-oh, we're in big trouble. It's like the parting of the seas after Game 3. If you could be a fly on the wall, I would guess Maurice went in there even after a win and blasted his team and said, we got to play way differently, get back to who we are, hit them, chase them, intimidate them, play smart, play smooth, go to the net strong, create, smother, do everything that is Florida Panther hockey.
Crazy watching it, Brian. The spectacular plays that we see during the regular season and how we put them on SportsCenter's top 10, Matthews and Marner and Nylander, and how the Florida Panthers play hockey, there is not a ton fancy about it. There just isn't.
Well, look at who scored last night. Ekblad, Kulikov, Boqvist, Mikkola, Greer. And the Boqvist goal was a 2-on-1 back post.
Dude, Matthew Tkachuk hasn't even sniffed being a factor.
He had one chance and it hit the crossbar on the power play late, and he didn't look like it, we're not you. Hayes, you're not talking. Barkov had 2.
Yeah.
Reinhardt had 1.
No.
No.
Verhaeghe, Tkachuk, Bennett. Like, we're not even talking those guys.
I think after 4-0, Tkachuk was like, I'm not even going out there, man.
Well,
Screw
the
it.
thing is about Tkachuk is you can tell, and it's all everyone understands it. Like I don't know if he's at 60%, 70%, but he knows, and he's crafty enough that he's got to make an impact at some point in the game in some way. Right. And what he did last night was, he made a couple of hits, couple of plays, created a couple of turnovers. I think on the Kulikov goal he was in on that. And then Domi tries to, I don't know, be a hero
dumb.
or whatever. Yeah,
like it was dumb penalties.
Well, he knows Tkachuk's not fighting there. Like it's just being a showman more than anything. And Tkachuk doesn't even look at him, and then draws a penalty and sells it. Like he got whacked, but he sells it and knows that the ref's going to give it to him because Domi's told the ref, "Come look at me because I'm looking to do something." Yeah. So he sucks Domi in, and then at the end of the game in the third, he's messing around with Matthews with his stick, and he's sticking Matthews, and he's sticking Matthews, like he's putting his stick in Matthews' face, like kind of taunting him. Yeah. And instead of Matthews just burying him or saying screw it, again, this is just fantasy world, but gloves off and saying I can't take you taunting me down 6-1 in my own building. Matthews gets to the bench as quickly as he can and gives him a little tap and gets off the ice. And Tkachuk he's in their kitchen, and yet he can barely play. Yeah. Like that's a real testament to him that he can barely skate, he can barely play, and yet the Leafs are like, I hate this guy and I got to get him, and it's just it's a real show of the game inside the game. Well, that he just knows how to play it. In the playoffs, it's just a different beast, man.
And the other guy, Marchand's right in there,
right in the middle of everything,
kicked
fight,
out
scrums,
at the end, and
whatever we need.
Exactly, like that, and then Bennett, and then there's a lineup of these guys, and again, you were in the building. We can just, for me, you can see it through the broadcast, right? Like, and I was flipping between broadcasts to get ulterior views, and it's just, Ray's talking about, Marchand just lives for this stuff, loving it as he's walking off. We're showing it right now on our screen. Fans chirping him. He's loving this. Plays the heel.
All he's known his whole career is beating the Leafs, man.
How many times we're talking about this out on the golf course? How many times is he? Like, if they win this series, how many times?
That'll be 5.
That'll be 5 times.
2013, 2018, 2019, 2024. This will be 2025. 5 times. To put that into perspective, the Battle of Ontario, the Leafs are up 5-0 on Ottawa. Brad Marchand will, if this continues, will be up 5-0 on the Maple Leafs in the playoffs.
The Maple Leafs have beat the Sens out of the playoffs 5 times?
Yeah, in the Battle of Ontario. They went 4-0 in the early 2000s, and then they just did it, if you could believe it, 2 weeks ago. I know it seems impossible to believe, but it did happen. Yeah, the Leafs are 5-0 in the Battle of Ontario, and Marchand is possibly going to be 5-0 in the Battle of Toronto, whatever you want to call it, however you want to label it. But, yeah, he just, he owns the Leafs, man. There's no other way to put it.
And you know what? Like, as bad as the Leafs played, Florida played really well.
They played great.
Like
they deserve a ton of credit. But that's what you expected, Noodles. It's Game 5.
I know.
It's tied 2-2. What were they going to mail it in and not perform?
No,
I mean,
you
knew they were going to show up.
Their game has built up. You can see their game, game to game is built. And, as you go through a series, you start to figure things out, or you start to go, okay, well, this is what we're going to try. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. The Leafs have to find a way. And a lot of it through is to simplify, and it's effort. How many times that, like, we could probably count on one hand how many times they won a loose puck battle yesterday.
Oh, like the Leafs, it was very few.
Right. That's not X's and O's. That's will. That's digging in and going, I'm coming out of the corner with this puck. You aren't.
Well,
and
yeah,
that was the
you're
difference.
Absolutely right. And let's come back and play a clip from Barub where it would almost look like he kind of had a glitch last night. Like the first time where it was like shell shock. I can't believe I just saw this, because he's been so composed and so, complimentary and, businesslike and all that. We'll play that clip, what he had to say about it. You referenced McDavid after the game last night. There's Kasperi Kapanen, one of the great Leaf alumni of all time, scoring an OT.
What a pluck by Chuck Knobloch out in Edmonton, putting him on the lineup. And
Yeah.
the guy scores the game-winning goal.
And what it was a pure battle play. Pure
Two
will
at the
and
net,
determination.
two at the net, just
And
jamming away.
fight.
We're fascinated with this term, like getting it in the corners and battling. I'm past that point because it's just, if I go back to the Blackhawks and them winning cups, they just played better. Like, they elevated and they were unreal. Patty Kane and Taze and Patrick Sharp and those guys, they weren't going in the corner and just bullying people and stealing. They were just playing amazing. So it's like these guys need to find a way to play way better. Forget about this battling and winning battles for pucks. That's not what they do. Find a way to play way better than you are right now.
All right, by 6:55, we have a mandate. We'll reach it. We're going to hit it by 6:55. We'll play what Craig Barub had to say post-game last night, what McDavid was talking about after the game last night. Ray Ferraro will join us at 5. Ray was between the benches in Toronto last night. Perfect
I got
day
a
to have
feeling
Ray
that
on.
he doesn't have a positive spin on that baby.
I can't imagine it was pretty from I mean, we were both in the building. He was in the building. Like, this
He
guy's
was literally between the
last
benches
night.
and in the group chat, he was
Yes.
giving us some insight.
We'll get the insight from Ray in terms of what he saw, what he heard, what he was picking up on between the benches last night. Catch up with Ray just after 5 o'clock. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN Plus. Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Ray Ferraro in about a half an hour. We're tracking the PGA Championship. We've got the Jets looking to survive tonight. The Capitals looking to survive. We've got the Jays after a win last night. So there's a lot going on. Beautiful day
Any
in
of
Toronto.
my guys stand up at the PGA?
Who's that?
Any of my picks kind of have
I
a
don't think so,
stand?
man. McElroy was 3 over.
What?
My concern is, I told you, my theory is Rory got his jacket. There's a chance it's
here we
just
go.
mail in for the rest of his career.
You know how many times you said that to me after a guy wins? You're like, I just think he's gonna just keep mailing. He doesn't care anymore.
That's not about
Every
not
guy
caring.
that wins
Yeah,
a
he does
major,
say
you
that.
just say he's done. He's mailed it
I
in.
think McElroy is a very special case. I mean,
Dude, you know it's a
McElroy.
joke. Like, for those guys, how wet it is out there, and they're not able to clean their golf ball in the middle of the
Scheffler
fairway.
was snapping today. Did
Dude,
you hear him?
That's insane.
He was losing it. He's like, for someone like me who works my whole life to control a golf ball, to get to a major championship and have no idea where it's going because there's so much mud on the ball. And he hit the middle of the fairway on 16, and he hit a mud ball, and it just like shanked off the earth. And he's like, what am I supposed to do? Like, how is this not lift clean in place? You know, but it's not. So anyway, to answer your question, I don't think so. Although Siwoo Kim, who you almost took, was caught blowing darts out there, so that was a good sign. He's in his element.
allowed to
I
smoke
couldn't
on the
believe that
course, aren't
headline
you?
when someone tweeted out there saying Siwoo Kim's blowing a dart walking down the fairway, and I watched it and I'm like, Siwoo?
I love those guys. I love those guys.
It's not illegal to smoke on the course, though,
No,
right?
no. It's I think the only sport where you can do it.
Dude,
Pump
Charlie
darts.
Hall will walk off the tee, who's a female on the LPGA tour, blows darts and signs autos with
I
it.
know.
Yes.
Look at Siwoo puffing darts.
Yeah. See, was like, it looks like he has no idea where his golf ball is either.
See, these guys know when to you know who was a master at it? Miguel Cabrera. When he was ripping heaters at the U.S. Open at Oakmont, he knew that as soon as he teed off, he has got about to the start of the fairway to absolutely mangle a dart because that's when the camera comes back on. So if there's any footage of him leaving a tee block, he'll crush a dart in 4 puffs. Because he knows the camera comes back on in the beginning of the fairway.
That is true. That's like in their CBA, I think. It was negotiated. You got to give me between the tee box
Yes.
and the start of the fairway
Yeah.
to fire off a cigarette.
Because
as
Timmy
quickly as I
Fincham or
can.
somebody was in there, and he's like, we can't have you guys ripping darts in the
Yeah.
fairway on live TV. And they said, well, don't put us on walking up to it.
Right.
Because I want my dart in that duration.
Give me 75 yards to walk to the fairway and then take it from there. And then it's my
That's
responsibility to make sure it's all good. Thing is about Charlie Hall, apparently she's quit cigarettes and now she dips
Gotta
on the
chew
course.
in.
Yeah,
Wow.
she's like, I'm getting off darts, but I'm going to chew. And she walks around with a chew, which
Charlie
I
Hall
love.
rips a skull mint on
That's
the
my
15th
understanding,
No,
that she has
dude.
transitioned from darts to Skoll. I think that's what's happening. Doogie, look that up and find out. I think Craig Berube would have enjoyed a cigar or something in the third period last night. Just try to relax. And again, this is you can't look at the game and the way the third period played through the Craig Berube in 1987 lens.
Right.
But if Craig Berube was playing in that game last night and he was on the Leafs, he would have tried to kill somebody. Like, that's just a fact. Like, you guys can speak to it. If you were winning 6-1 in the playoffs in 1993, you're like, there's fights, and it's going to get insane out here.
Yeah, you got to fight your way out of the building some nights. Like, that's
the
what
way it would have been. Like,
Yeah.
if you're going to embarrass us on home ice, we have to do this, and the Leafs did not. But Berube has been, a very calm presence. I think he's handled this market incredibly well. And he was asked after the game about, what happened, what do you make of it? Here's Craig Berube post-game last night.
Well, I don't think they came any harder than they have, to be honest with you. I think we let them come tonight. Well, we stood around and watched. You can't do that. So, we responded in the past, and I expect a response from our team, and we'll talk about things and, make some adjustments that are needed. But it's more of a mindset for me going into this game 6 than anything else. It's not X's and O's.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It has nothing to do with a scheme. It's not like football. It's like, well, you kept trying to run the ball. Why didn't you adjust? That's not what we're talking about here. It's simply who wants to win that battle? Who wants to fight through traffic? Who wants to throw the hit and block the shot? And that's what has to happen. Like, there's no...
And that's why these guys get the bad rap, because the effort they put forth last night, it has the reflection, and it's impossible for someone to think, but it's either choking, where you can't get it done, or it doesn't mean enough to you where you're motivated to perform. Mm-hmm. It's one of the two, because it can't keep happening at the exact same moment of every playoff series. So it's one of the two. It's either choking, Johnny Miller's favorite term, where you just can't perform under the circumstances, or B, which I would never want to believe, it just doesn't mean enough to you that you just dig down and find something. It's one or the other.
Mm-hmm. There's too much of a sample size now, man.
Yes.
There's no...
For the same thing to be happening in the same critical points of series, it's only one of two things.
Yep.
It's not because of fatigue. It's not because of your tummy sore. It's one of those two things that for you to perform like that under those circumstances.
Yep. It's that simple.
The crazy thing is okay, so we termed yesterday, the biggest game of their career, all of that type of stuff, right? What do you have for a response? Like, what do you do? What do you follow it up with? That's my question. What do you follow it up with? Because if I saw you on Jay's show last night, Hayes. Like, if this is rock bottom, then what do you go up? Do you make it a game? Is it just mail it in? Like, that's the multi-million-dollar question for tomorrow that we don't have the answer to until we see the game. But it's what are you going to follow it up with? Like, off night for everybody, and we're going to have a one-goal game tomorrow night and a hard fought, and we'll see how it goes? Or is it this is curtains and that was your TSN turning point?
Well, again, they're in a way very lucky. Like, you still, that wasn't Game 7 last night. That wasn't the fourth win by Florida. Like, how many times have we said that this core group is lucky that they're still here 9 years later, and they're still being given opportunities to change their reputation and change the minds of every fan, which is incredible. And you still have that. Like, you have tomorrow night and then possibly Sunday to do that. And I was being somewhat tongue-in-cheek last night, but I do think, like, I always think of Joe from the Bridge, who we love Joe. And Joe is, after last, like, Joe, they can get pumped, they can lose all the time. Joe's like, love the, Leafs, I got them tonight. I think they run off 16 in a row. Like, that's Joe. That's his mentality. Right. Everything's great. The Leafs are the best. If they lose, they got screwed, whatever. I would think even after last night, Joe may not admit it publicly, but privately he's got to be thinking, I just can't keep doing it. Like, And maybe that is actually what somehow it needed to happen. That every Leaf fan was like, all right, I'm done. I can't keep going. I can't keep doing this. And once you hit that, they say, all right, now we're pulling a 180 on you. Now we're going to show you. Now we're going to win the next two, and we're going to go on a run, and we're going to shut everybody up. I'm not holding my breath, but it's possible. And, the idea of shutting everybody up, we should play this McDavid clip. We got 2 McDavid clips last night. If you heard this, you would think they missed the playoffs by 15 points. I know. This is a guy, the way he was speaking last night, you would think they finished with 84 points, and the coach is about to be fired, and there's a lot of problems. So let's begin with the Skinner clip, because Skinner, back-to-back shutouts, does it again last night in overtime. Here's Connor McDavid again after they won the series. So they're going back to the conference final, something a Canadian team, I was told earlier today by Doogie, the last time a Canadian team went back-to-back conference finals was the Leafs, I believe, back in the early 90s, 93, 94. Here's McDavid post-game on Stuart Skinner.
Well, hopefully it shuts a lot of people up that were talking about him, first and foremost. But, we've always had belief in him, comes in and pitches 2 shutouts. Can't say enough good things.
All right. I don't understand what that means. Like, he couldn't stop a puck. What was anyone supposed to say?
Well, that's true. That is true. Go talk to Knobloch. He pulled them and literally said Pickard's playing.
Yeah, and we hope that he keeps playing.
Yes.
I honest to God, I messaged Rashok today and said, what was going on? Because he was so combative. That's usually he's just very, matter of fact, but it was almost like something had got into his grill. And apparently it might have been a question earlier about that they figured out how to defend. He's like, we know how to defend.
Well, we have that clip. All right, I want to play this because this is kind of a Kobe vibe, right? Like Kobe's got those famous pressers, not happy, job's not done.
Yeah.
And that's what this kind of feels like in a way that McDavid has taken on this persona of just being hyper focused and crazy and won't smile and isn't doing anything and not taking anything for granted, and all he wants to do is win. Because this I don't know if we have the line of questioning, do we guys? Do we have the question in it? Okay, we do. So because I think it's important, because I don't know who's asking it, but whoever is asking it is driving this guy insane because McDavid wants to absolutely.
It's got to be one of the local scribes that has asked it 28 times because he's like you again. You ask this question all the time.
Let's play it. Let's just play the whole thing, and then we'll come back and break it down.
It just seems like there's been a natural progression over the last couple of years. Have you seen that, the way that you guys defend and feel more comfortable defending as a group?
I mean, how many times are we going to answer this question, really? Honestly, that's frustrating that we keep talking about this. We can defend. We can. We've showed that time and time again. Come into a tough building and win a 1-0 game when it matters most. We can play that way. We can score goals. We can, whatever it takes, we can win games. Yeah.
He was
Dude, that stare at that guy. He hates that guy.
That guy. I love how he caught himself because he originally goes, I can't believe you keep, and then he goes, we keep talking about, he caught himself.
Yeah.
Because that guy's asked that question every 6 to 7 games this season.
Yeah.
Although, again, to be fair, you go back to the LA series, it was insane watching them play.
Yes.
And the way they defended earlier in the season was awful. They were not defending well, and they weren't playing well. But
dude, it's amazing how you've seen it with the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers, how a switch can go off and they just can morph into a machine. The Florida Panthers down 2 Cobb, giving up goals. Bobrovsky was terrible. And then an overtime winner and a switch goes off, and they just morph into this ultimate winning machine. And you don't know if they're ever going to lose a game the rest of the way. Well, and Edmonton, same thing, dude.
What's your mini Jerry's? We see a repeat in the Cup final.
70%.
Ooh.
70%.
That is high. That is a lot of love for those two teams, understandably.
I'm a bit lower on that. I think
maybe I'm going to go 6, maybe even 50 because Dallas is so good.
Is really good, and Carolina's rolling, and
I
6:55. The Leafs aren't done yet. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, I just at the end of the day, I think it's. I mean, McDavid doesn't look like he looks possessed, and he's going to drag them. But I mean, that Dallas team's really good, and Florida, the way they played last night, they look like they're
so good, man.
I said this the other day, like they look like they found something again. They look like they found their game, and it's up to the Leafs to try and beat them. Not at their game, but at a game where you keep it close, or you do something and have separators, and that's the difference. I'm not saying the Leafs can't come back in this series, but it looks like Florida's found their game. And they're very comfortable in their game because they'll play a 1-0 game, 2-1, you name it. They play the same way, and they're like a machine. And then the goalie had his bad games early on. Like he looks like he's comfortable right now.
He's dialed in.
Well, although Nick Robertson, there you go.
Nick Robertson got him, of course, with a minute 6 left.
Here's my question to you guys, and I know it's what you're about to ask. In-game. Why is the horn going off at 6-1 with like?
What is so awkward is you're in there and you feel for the game ops people because they do a phenomenal job.
They do a great job.
They do an unbelievable job. I have been praising the game ops.
Yes.
Down at Scotiabank throughout the playoffs and for years. I think in this particular playoff, they've done an unbelievable job.
Yes.
And last night, I think it was after the third goal. I think it might have been 4-0. They've been bringing out legends. Yeah. And last night, it's Daryl Sittler. They got Daryl coming out. And, they're showing his highlights. And Daryl comes out, and Daryl's trying to get the crowd. He's doing everything he can, and it's just like, what are people going to possibly do? And then to further that, you're right. The goal's going off, the song's going off because you have to do it. It's entertainment.
I get it.
It's natural, but the in stadium, hosts or whatever you want to call them, like they're it's 6-0, and they're all right, Leafs fans, and you got to do it. You have to.
Yeah.
Can't just say forget it. We're canceling that. You're not.
The worst would be the game ops people. Like, get on your feet.
But that's what I'm saying, dude. That was happening. It was like 5 minutes.
Imagine that 4-0, and you're up for the segment. Everybody, get on your feet.
Who wants a free shirt?
Who wants a T-shirt? People would put you in a headlock.
I know.
It's so tough.
That's what you get. That's what you get paid for. It's easy when it's 6-1 Leafs and everyone's going nuts and everyone wants a shirt.
Our boy down there, I'd be on this little headpiece and I'd be like, I think we got to gas the T-shirt segment. We got to gas the T-shirt segment.
Just give it to people on the way out or something.
On the way out. There you go, Chop.
Find some kids.
You knew where I was going with this, Hayes. Like, my heart hurt for those guys because Robertson scores, and he's excited to. He comes back in, gets a goal. Yes, it's a nothing goal or whatever. It's not a nothing goal to him. Mm-hmm. And, he's not going to high-five anybody or jump up and ride his stick or whatever. And the horn goes on. The song's going on.
The music's playing.
Oh, my God.
It was crazy.
But I guess what would we do? If they didn't play it.
You have to do it.
You have to do
it. Yeah. You have to. It's instinct. You have to. It's mandatory. You have to. But that was an out-of-body experience. That was another one of them for me last night. All right, Ray's coming up. Ray Ferraro in about 15 minutes. He was between the benches last night. His take on what went wrong, how the Leafs could possibly get back into this series. Does he expect Florida Edmonton in the Cup final? And there's a lot to get into for the games tonight as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Ray's coming up into the next hour. There's some other wild stories going on out there, including a book that will be released soon. And how Caleb Williams and his family wanted nothing to do with the Chicago Bears.
And why'd you go there?
Well, and he's there. He's played.
Yeah.
Like, what do you? How you
really
allow
good,
this book to come out now? How people in Chicago are going to freak out about this?
What about his teammates? They'd be like, "Why don't you just leave then, dude? You're not even that good."
Yeah, he did not have a great rookie season. The Bears said, we're taking you anyway. But then you consider Jaden Daniels and what he did in Washington. It's like maybe you should have looked at somebody else.
Right.
Anyway, we'll tell you more about that story into the next hour. Also, some reports on who could be kicking tires on Masai Ujiri. But it was a tough night for the hockey scene because not only the Leafs lost, the Scepters lost in overtime last night. So they're out. So on both sides of it, I was talking to my daughter last night. She was like, what's going on with the Leafs? I'm like, it's not good. She goes, what's going on with the Scepters? I'm like, not good.
Not good.
Not great for the Toronto hockey fan right now. So they're out as well in the first round against Minnesota. All right, Ray's coming up. His take on what happened last night. Ray was between the benches, Leafs-Panthers tonight, or last night. What he heard, what he saw, what he can detail that nobody else can. Ray's coming up on that, the Oilers winning, and what we expect out of Winnipeg and Washington tonight.